Okay, welcome everybody to Lunch and Learn Wednesdays. My name is Jacob Falkenberg. I am the Communications and Member Services Director at Venture Portland, and today we're going to be talking about the 2025 staffing grants that just went live last week and going to be due on March 7th. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to kind of go through the application, and then I'll answer any questions that you might have at the end. Okay, can everybody see the grant application page there? This should be the first page. This is the signature page. And if you've applied for Venture Portland grants in the past, this should look familiar. Nothing really has changed here. We've added a couple more contact areas, and I'll kind of get into those. I've just got a couple more people in the waiting room here. So I want to make sure that they can get in. Okay. So you want to make sure to fill out this page completely. And sometimes that means getting signatures from folks who may be unavailable on the day of the deadline. So what I always tell people is you want to make sure that you give yourself time to get this page signed by your president and treasurer before the day of the deadline, just because we do not accept any late applications. But really what you're going to do here is fill out the total amount you're requesting on line 1, and that's up to $10,000 for one of the grants that we have available, and then up to $6,000 for the other grant, which we'll talk about. But it can be anywhere from 0 to 10,000 based on what your budget looks like. There is no minimum. And then the second line here is the type of grant that you're going to be applying for. So we've got two different types of grants that we've kind of broken it down to in this grant cycle. You can apply for a grant for ongoing staff, or you can apply for a grant for a contractor or consultant to work on a specific project sometime in the next year. And I'll go into the specifics of those in the next page. You're also going to put the name of your business district and the mailing address for your business district. So this is going to be the address that we will send the check to. So PO Box or whatever is best there. And then the next line is the grant writer. So this is a new line that we added just so we have information on the person who actually is specifically writing this grant for the association. So making sure you put in their phone number and email, just in case if we have questions about the application, we can reach out to them. And then the next line is the project lead. And that is going to be the person that we contact if we have questions about the project as it's happening. So if you are awarded the grant, sometimes we check in about the status of the project, the progress that's being made, and that sort of thing. So that would be the person that would be best to talk to about that. And sometimes it's the same as the grant writer. Sometimes it's different. So those can be the same or different, whatever it might end up being. And then, as I said, you want to put your president and treasurer's contact information here as well. Those are the folks that are actually going to need to sign the application. So, they're going to sign it once the final narrative has been complete. But as I said, don't wait until the last minute to get those signatures, because we have had situations where people were on vacation or unavailable on the day of the deadline, and we weren't able to accept the applications without those signatures. And those can be wet signatures, or they can be signed through Adobe or DocuSign, whatever your business district uses. But everything will be submitted digitally. So you won't be dropping off a hard copy of the application to our office or anything. You'll just be emailing a digital copy to me when it's completed. Okay, so pretty straightforward stuff on the cover page, but definitely, keep that in mind. The signatures are kind of the biggest deal there. So let's go kind of get into the nitty-gritty of these staffing grants. These are brand new grants that we're offering for the first time this year. And a lot of these changes have kind of been made based on our contract with the city and some of the changes that have been happening at the city. So you'll notice that the types of projects that you maybe had applied for through Venture Portland in the past are no longer eligible. namely events. So you can no longer apply for funding for events. That's all handled through the Office of Events and Film now. However, you can apply for staff people to organize and execute events. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about the different types of staffing that are eligible for these projects. So the first is going to be ongoing staff. So your district may or may not already have somebody who's working part-time on an ongoing basis at the organization, doing the day-to-day activities at the business association. So that's, facilitating your membership campaign, boots on the ground, visiting businesses, supporting businesses. It could be managing ongoing events. So if you're doing like monthly mixers, or even if you're doing, seasonal events, that person might be doing that, or marketing campaigns, running your social media, your website, writing your newsletters, taking care of the CRM if your district has something like that to manage its membership, and supporting the board in its work. So supporting the volunteers at the organization, really kind of being the anchor. We've seen a huge impact for districts that have managed to get someone, even a part-time person, having someone consistently at the organization to support the volunteers has made a huge impact, as we've seen in our Catalytic Investment Initiative program that just wrapped up at the end of 2024. So you can apply for up to $10,000 to hire someone or to continue to pay someone who's already doing this work, starting April 1st through December 31st, 2025. So about a 9-month period there. And $10,000 may seem like a lot, but you really want to have somebody at least 12 hours a week, and you want to be paying them at least $25 an hour. So that's going to add up pretty quickly. If you're going the route for ongoing stuff, you want to definitely keep in mind, how are you going to match some of these funds with the organization's funds to kind of bump up that 10,000 to even higher? And how are you going to make this a self-sustaining position? So once the grant kind of is fully spent at the end of the year, what processes does the organization have in place to continue paying this person to continue doing this work, right? Because you don't want to lose that institutional knowledge. You don't want to lose that momentum and all the great things that this person's doing over the next 9 months. So something to keep in mind if you're thinking about going this route. And obviously, the more hours that you can have them working, the better. But we've kind of seen that 12 is kind of the bare minimum to actually be able to get things done. What you don't want your ongoing staff doing is things like administrative tasks, like taking minutes. The things that the board members and the volunteers could be doing themselves. Really, this is someone who has a varied skill set, and you're really taking advantage of their skill sets. You're not having them do things that could be done by the volunteers, but really having them build the capacity of the association. And the other type of staffing you can apply for is for a contractor or consultant. So this is more short-term for a specific project happening between April 1st and December 31st. So still the same timeline, but more specialized, right? Like this is someone who's going to be taking on a specific project for the organization. And because this is short-term, these grants are for up to $6,000. And this could be anything from building a new website for your organization, or building out a CRM to kind of manage your membership and your contacts and all that stuff. It could be someone who's facilitating a large-scale event or marketing campaign that happens every year, or something that you're looking to launch in the next year, whether it's a summer event or a holiday event. This person could be hired to do that. But it can also be a contractor that might be a designer to design a map or some sort of district placemaking materials, banners, and something that might need to be manufactured to help market and promote the district. You could use this particular grant to hire someone to do that. Also, board development, if you want to hire a consultant to come in and help to build the board's skills, so they can do better work. This could be someone that would fit into this category. And then also diversity, equity, and inclusion training and facilitation. If you're looking to hire a DEI specialist to help you diversify your membership or diversify your board, or just help you understand how you can be a more inclusive organization, this particular grant could pay for that as well. Now, there are other types of contractors and consultants that would qualify for this grant. So if it's not on this list and it's still something you're interested in, reach out to me and I can kind of let you know if it kind of fits within the scope of what these grants are. As I said, this is the first time we're offering these grants, so we're kind of building the plane as we're flying it, but I can kind of help you determine whether or not it's going to resonate with our grants committee. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the guidelines for the particular grant. So things to kind of keep in mind. Grants should be matched 0.5 to 1 with either cash or in-kind contributions. So what does that mean? If you apply for a $10,000 grant, plan on matching with an additional $5,000 either through additional expenses or volunteer time or donated goods and services. So let's say you're hiring someone to put on an event, the grant is going to go towards paying that person, but there's a lot of other expenses related to the event as well. You've got to rent equipment and you've got to market and promote the event, that sort of thing. So that can be used as your match. If you're just hiring someone to do ongoing staff, you still need to manage that person, right? There needs to be someone checking in regularly with that person, doing performance evaluation, making sure that they're getting paid, making sure that they're supported. So that could be your volunteer time, right? The board is the volunteers who are supporting that staff person, and your volunteer time is actually in-kind contributions. So I think the last time I checked, it was about $25 an hour was the value of a nonprofit volunteer's time. So between those two things, just thinking about how you can kind of bolster the grant with other expenses that are related to the project itself. To apply, you also should have liability insurance for your business association. We highly recommend directors and officers insurance as well. That's incredibly important for protecting your board members, but at the very least, general liability insurance. Also, you want to be in compliance with your bylaws. So if you haven't looked at your bylaws lately, definitely take a look and make sure that you still have a big enough board and you're still operating within the guidelines set within those bylaws. You also need to have a set deadline. So at the very latest, the funds need to fully be spent by the 31st. But if it's a shorter term project, thinking about, okay, when do we need to have these funds spent over the next 9 months? If the funds are not fully spent by the end of the project, anything left over should be returned to Venture Portland. Now, a lot of the times we're pretty flexible on this. If there's something else that falls within the same kind of guidelines of the grant that you also want to do beyond the scope of your original project, we have approved that on a case-by-case basis. So if you gotten to the end of your project and you still have funds left over, reach out to me and just let's have a conversation about what the board wants to do with the remaining funds. And if it still builds the capacity of the organization, more than likely we're going to say, yeah, go ahead and spend it rather than give it back. We want the associations to spend those funds rather than return them to us. Also, recognizing Venture Portland as a funder. So whether that's giving us a shout out on your website or via social media or in a newsletter, when you're talking about hiring someone or you're talking about putting on an event or something, recognizing us as a funder is really important, and putting our logo on any promotional materials that might be related to the project as well. And then if you have any other Venture Portland grants going right now, making sure that those are either closed out or you've kind of gotten approval from us for an extension. Most of the time you want to take one project at a time. Moving forward, this is not going to be as much of an issue as it has in the past. So in previous years, we've had 3 grant cycles, spring, summer, and fall. Now moving forward, we're just doing 1 annual grant cycle. So that means that this is your business district's only opportunity to apply for funding through us in 2025. So you want to make sure that you're having conversations with your board now to get an application in this grant cycle. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait until February of next year before those grants are released again. And then you must be a current member of Venture Portland. So I think most districts here have renewed their membership, but if you haven't, you must do so before submitting your application. And that can be done via our website, or you can mail a check to our office. So if you need help renewing your membership, just reach out to me. And then I'm just going to go ahead and read our equity statement before I get into the actual application questions. Business districts drive our city and make our neighborhoods thrive. Recognizing the ongoing impact of historic and systemic inequalities and the disproportionate effect of these inequalities have had on Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities, we work to grow a more equitable and prosperous economy for all. We welcome and value diverse perspectives. That's why Venture Portland's grants program seeks to build the capacity of Portland's diverse business districts and prioritizes projects that support BIPOC communities and BIPOC-owned businesses. So while it is not a requirement to have a BIPOC component or an accessibility or DEI component in your projects, projects that take the initiative to include that are generally scored higher by our grants committee. Okay. So let's look at the individual questions that you're going to have to answer as part of the application. In previous years, this has been a very long part of the application. A lot of the questions had multiple parts. And a lot of the folks who are applying for these grants are not grant writers. A lot of them, most of them are small business owners. Maybe you haven't ever written a grant before in the past. So we tried to make this as easy and straightforward as possible, keep the bar low. And if you're having any trouble with this, I am available to help you with the application process. So I can review drafts, answer questions, because I don't actually make any of the funding decisions here at Venture Portland. Those decisions are made by our grants committee, who's made up of representatives from business associations throughout the city. So your peers will be reading and scoring the applications. They will not be reading and scoring their own district's applications, but they'll be discussing who actually will be receiving funding. So because of that, I'm available up until the very day before the deadline to take a look at drafts and answer questions that you might have. Okay, so question number 1, provide a detailed description of the work of your district staff person will be performing. So this is the most important question. I think this is weighted the highest out of all the questions on the application. And really what you're going to provide is either a scope of work, if you're hiring a contractor or consultant, or a job description, if you're hiring ongoing staff, that kind of provides a breakdown of what that person's going to be doing. What's their tasks? What are their responsibilities? And really this gets into, how is this person going to support the businesses in the district? How is this person going to build the capacity of your business association? How are they going to market and promote and drive traffic to the business district? So this is where you're going to put those specific things that you want them to work on. And like I said, really focus on more specialized skills rather than this person's going to take the minutes and this person's going to, send out the email reminder for the board meetings, things that, your board should be doing. That should not be falling on this person. This person should be going above and beyond what the board is already doing at the organization. So then question 2 gets into how do you find success for this person? So setting some short-term goals, so quantifiable goals, right? Like if you're hiring someone to manage your membership, what percentage do you want to grow your membership in the next 9 months? If you're hiring someone to, build a new website, what do you want that website to do? Do you want to use it to drive traffic to your, increase traffic to your website? Do you want it to support the businesses in the district, provide value for the businesses in the district, promote and market events that you're doing, that sort of thing? So what are the specific goals that you're going to be setting for this person so they know if they're successful or not? And then question 3 gets into the current financial and volunteer capacity of the business association. So the business association should have cash in the bank or a plan to generate cash to kind of cover the expenses above and beyond the grant. So making sure that that's in order, as well as having volunteers available to support and manage the staffer. Someone needs to be the direct point of contact for this person to reach out on hopefully a weekly basis, if not monthly. And who's going to provide performance evaluation and who's going to kind of manage the staffer. Does your board have the capacity to have that responsibility? Question 4, will your staffer engage with diverse communities during this project? If so, explain how. And while that's not a requirement of this particular grant, we want business associations to be thinking about how can we engage more with diverse communities. So that's diversifying your board, that's diversifying your membership. Maybe this person's job is to specifically build relationships with business owners of color in the district, or to partner with another organization in the district that might serve diverse communities. So if this is going to be part of the responsibilities of this person's doing, you'll list that here. Question 5, have you explored funding for this project through other sources? If so, what was the outcome? So most business associations are 501c6. You're not going to qualify for most grants, but there are other funding sources out there that you want to be aware of. So a lot of your funding comes through your membership dues. A lot of business associations get funding through sponsorships from larger businesses in the district. And then there's other funding available through organizations like Travel Portland and the Office of Events and Film. So if you've applied for funding or if you looked into other funding sources to help supplement the grant, what was the outcome there? And then question 6, which really isn't a question at all, but it's really just filling out the budget page. And that's this budget template that we have here. And it's a very simple template. I'll go through it briefly just to kind of give you an idea of what should be going into each space here. So at the top of the budget page is your project income. So the very first space there is going to be the dollar amount that you're requesting for the grant. And then in the next space here, this is your project revenue. So let's say you're doing an event or you're hiring someone to put on an event. That event can generate revenue through vendor fees, through sponsorships, things like that. So if the project is going to generate revenue, and that could even be membership, right? If you're hiring someone to help increase your association's membership, how much are you planning on bringing in membership dues through that person? What's the increase that you're hoping? If you're planning on increasing your membership by 25%, what does that look like? And that's helping you get to that 0.5 to 1 match that we talked about. And then anything beyond that is your business district contribution. So this is just cash coming out of your bank account to kind of cover anything above and beyond the grant and revenue that the project's going to generate. So let's say, your total expenses is $15,000. You're applying for a Venture Portland grant for $10,000. You're maybe thinking about bringing in $2,000 in sponsorships. You still have $3,000 left to cover. And that's probably going to be coming out of your business district account if you don't have any other way to generate that revenue. And then the final space here are your in-kind contributions. And while this isn't required, this is another way for you to meet that match, that 0.5 to 1 match, through volunteer time or donated goods and services that are happening during that grant period. And if you need help calculating that, I can assist you with trying to find the value of certain things. A lot of the times, if you get a donation of like a space, or if someone gives you a discount on a service, they'll give you an invoice that shows you the value of that, just because that's what they use for their tax purposes. So if you haven't gotten something, a lot of the times it's just a matter of requesting it from the person or organization that provided you with the in-kind contribution. So you tally all those things up, and that's your total project income, which goes there on line 5. And then below that are your project expenses. And there's a Word document version of this application that you can use and go ahead and fill in the different spaces in the expenses to better match your project, what it's going to look like. Right now, it's pretty bare bones. It's just got the cost of the staff or the cost of the contractors and any supplies and materials that they might be using. But you can fill in the lines below that with any other expenses that might be related to the work that they're doing, and then put the total amount at the very bottom there. As I said, there is a Word document version of this available on our website. So as you're filling out, especially in this narrative portion, you want to make sure to use this same format, right? So put the question 1, and then what the question is, and then your answer below it, just so the grants committee can follow along. The same goes for this budget template. Try to use this budget template. A lot of people have their own budgeting templates that they use just for their yearly budgets. But it really helps to be consistent and use the same application and budget for the whole, for everybody that submits an application. That just helps the grants committee compare apples to apples. Okay, and that's the last piece of the application, really. It's just the cover page, which has the signatures, the 5 questions in the narrative, and then the grant project budget template, which has the total costs of the project. Last thing I want to do before I open it up for questions is just look at the timeline here. So we're working on a pretty tight timeline. The applications were released last Monday, so on the 10th. And then they'll stay open for 4 weeks until March 7th. So over the next 2 weeks, I'm available to provide grants office hours, is what we call it, to review and give you feedback on your application. And then during the week of the deadline, in the days leading up to the deadline, we provide which is called final draft review. So at that point, your application should be fully filled out. You're not at the kind of talking about the types of projects that you might apply for stage. It's really we're reviewing the final draft to make sure that you're not missing anything and that there's nothing glaringly incorrect or unclear. And then the applications are due on March 7th, no later than noon. And on the day of the deadline, we don't actually provide any assistance for grant writing. Really, I'm just looking at the application to make sure it's fully complete and then sending you an email saying, we got it, it's been accepted, and we'll give it to the grants committee. The grants committee will then take those applications and start reading them and scoring them over the next couple weeks after the deadline. And then they'll meet at the end of March to make their funding decisions. So we anticipate letting everyone know whether or not they got the grant by March 28th. If you did receive the grant, we'll send you a grant contract. And then once that grant contract is received, we will either mail you a check or we can directly deposit the funds into your account if you would rather do that. So hoping to get those funds out the door by mid-April. So associations can start spending them for their spring and summer activities and holiday activities as well. But as we said, everything needs to be spent by the end of the calendar year, December 31st, 2025. And then we just ask for a project report just to tell us how everything went and how everything was spent, no later than 15 days after project completion. So this could be anytime over the next year, depending on when your project is finished. But at the very latest, plan on having that report sent to me by the 15th of January, 2026. Okay, a lot of information. Hopefully, this doesn't look too different than the applications you've seen in the past. I know that it's a little bit more narrow of a focus, but I want to open it up to questions to see if anybody has any things that they're still wondering about, things that they might be thinking about applying for that they're unsure, questions about the process in general. So go ahead and chime in. You can raise your hand. You can just start talking. You can drop it into the chat, and I'll do my best to answer those questions. And if you want to take some time to mull it over and talk with your board, you can always email me over the next couple of weeks if questions come up. Yeah, Gail.
Hi. So I'm a little confused between designations of districts and business associations or alliances. In District 1, we have 3 that I'm aware of operating business associations. So my question is, how much money do you have to distribute across the city for these grants? And can you explain a little more about how Ventures approaching this whole District 1 through 4 application and focus versus business associations focus? Just
Yeah,
give some
yeah.
clarity.
That's a great question. Yeah, because with the new city council structure, the term district is kind of getting kind of mixed up, I think. So we work with the business districts, not necessarily the council districts. So each business association is eligible to apply for a grant. It doesn't have to be the whole district applying for a grant. If your business association is a member of Venture Portland, then you're eligible to apply for a grant specifically for your association. So if Midway Business Association wanted to apply, they could apply. If Division Midway Alliance wanted to apply, they could apply. But it's 2 separate entities. It would be 2 separate grants. You could partner together if you wanted to, but I think it makes more sense, especially since these grants are, relatively small, that it would make more sense for just a single business association to apply for the grant. And to answer your other question about the total amount of dollars, we've got just over $80,000 to give away. So our budget isn't huge. It is going to be a very competitive process. Let's see, we can give away anywhere from 8 to probably 15 grants, depending on, what the requests are. So not everyone is going to be able to receive these grants, but the good news is only business associations can apply for these grants. So the applicant pool is relatively small. Generally there's no more than 20 applications that come in per grant cycle, just because there's only so many business associations operating in Portland. But yeah, when I talk about district, I talk about business district, not city council district.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions about the application process or types of projects? Yeah, Joshua.
Just to confirm the sort of difference between ongoing staff and contractor consultant. So for LCA, we have, I guess our ongoing staff is a contractor consultant through Venture Portland. So but they do the task of more of an ongoing staff.
Yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of the times with part-time people, yeah, they're going to be a contractor, and it really just it depends on the type of work that they're doing. With LCA, yeah, you're I think falling into the ongoing category, because this person is kind of working on an ongoing regular basis at the association, doing the kind of day-to-day tasks rather than focusing on one big thing, one big project a year, something like that. So even though they are a contractor, and in most cases, yeah, most associations can't actually hire an employee. Both are probably going to be contracted individuals. It really just depends on, are they working on one big project, or are they working on lots of little projects throughout the year? That'll kind of help you determine whether or not they fit into the ongoing or the contractor consultant category.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, Melanie.
So if we have like 2 small projects we want to do with 2 contractors, can we ask for both, or do we have to pick one?
Ooh, that's a good question. That actually hasn't come up. I would say, you know, if you've got 2 projects and the total expense is less than $6,000,
Mhm.
then you can totally do that. I think
Okay.
I think that'll still fit the mold.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, because we have like 2 like $2,000 things we're trying to do this year. So it would be nice to be able to get the grant for both of them.
yeah, I think that makes sense to apply for both. And
So do
just
we
yeah,
do
make it-
like kind of 2 individual like Word docs for each individual one, or do we pull them together into like one project?
I
What
think
would be
it's
the best way?
Yeah, it would all be one application, and then there in question 1, where you're putting the scope of work, just
Mhm.
break it down really clearly in question 1. Break question 1 into 2 parts,
Okay.
where part 1 is project 1 that's happening at the beginning of the year, and then part 2 is project 2 that happens after that. Especially if it's going to be 2 different people doing those things.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that'll just kind of help to clarify. It's not somebody that's going to be coming in every week to work at the organization.
Right.
It's really, you know, more of a seasonal.
Yeah, yeah. These are more just individual projects that we're working on. And then second question, what if we've already started one of them?
If you've already started one, you can't have retroactive spending, but if
Okay.
it's, you know, if this project will go into, you know, June,
Okay.
or, you know, late May, and you have expenses, you know, that are still accruing
Like if we're
those.
not gonna pay them
Yeah.
until after April 1st, right? We've just started the project already.
Yeah, I think
But
as
the
long
bill
as
isn't necessarily due until after that. Okay.
right. Yeah, I think yeah, as long as your invoice is dated after April 1st, then you should be good. It's one thing I did forget to mention as I was kind of going through the application, is part of the reporting is submitting receipts and invoices for the total of the grant, just to show how you spent the grant. And those receipts, yeah, have to be dated between April 1st and December 31st.
Okay.
So yeah, if it's begun already, that's okay, as long as the receipts that you submit at the end are after April 1st.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions about the grant? As I said, yeah, you've got a couple weeks here to kind of finalize, you know, what you want to do, but I'll be available. So certainly just email me as questions come up, or if you want me to take a look at a draft. And we'll make sure that everything looks good, especially since this is the first time we're doing this. Questions might come up that might not have come up in the past. So want to make sure that people are feeling supported, and make sure that you're, you know, submitting your best effort. Like I said, not everybody's going to get the funding, but yeah, you want to make sure that you've got all the questions answered fully. So thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time, and yeah, as the process continues, let me know what comes up. You can download the application on our website, ventureportland.org, under grants, the grants tab there. You'll find the PDF and the doc versions of that. So I think we'll let you have 15 minutes left in your day, and have a great rest of your day. We'll be in touch soon. Take care and have a good day.